The purpose of this project is to shed light on the importance and effects fathers play in our lives. The foundation of a father is more important than we could ever think. Children look to their fathers for strength, encouragement, wisdom, guidance, and even correction. Young men look to their fathers for instruction on how to be a man, how to conduct themselves in society, and how to handle their emotions. Fathers are the first-hand example of spirituality or the lack thereof. Oftentimes, not knowing your father can cause identity crisis. At least it did in my case. I believe if I had a chance to get to really know him, I would have made better choices. Now, I'm not blaming him for the choices that I made. I'm just saying we are a direct reflection of the examples that are set before us. So if I had a chance to write a letter to my father today, it would read, "Hey Dad."
I understand he can't pronounce nothing in Japanese. He knows that I'm there. She knows that I'm there, right? So I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think sometimes for me, my son has dealt with so much trauma from his mom that it blocked our relationship for so long because he wouldn't allow me to in his life the way that I wanted to, because he wanted to protect me from his mother and his stepfather. And so we had to go through that growing part of learning him, what he liked and what I liked, and try to bring those things together. And that was just like recently we just became like through this thing where we just had to like sit down and be like, so what do you like?
Yeah.
And he was just like, I don't know. My son is an introvert. My son is like one of those people that he can stay in his room all day and be fine. And I'm more of a social butterfly. So like when we go out in public, he'll say to me like, Dad, like, you know, you got a lot going on. I don't have that skill. And I'm like, but it also comes with time.
Right. Right.
And I think, you know, being a model of how to navigate through life, through even not through sports or through whatever, and him seeing that, that's a relationship builder. Because now he appreciates, you know, those lessons that I've taught him over the years of how to navigate through life in a different aspect. So
yeah, and being different and just letting them know that being different is nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
Right? There's nothing wrong because we're all wired a certain way,
Yeah.
right? Some of us, you know, want to be social butterflies. Some of us are less, but it is nothing wrong with that. It takes all types of ingredients, you know, to make the stew good, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to let them know that.
Yeah. I want to dig on there real quick before we keep rolling. I started this point before we started filming about suppressed trauma versus normalized trauma. And as black men, we teeter-totter that a lot because, like, while being pulled over and racially discriminated against by a police officer is trauma, it's normal.
Yeah.
That's something we expect.
Yeah.
For a child, seeing certain things from their parents or from the world is normal until they see the opposite. Like you said, with playing football with yourself, it was normal.
Yeah.
Until somebody asked you why you do it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
My mother, I love my mother to death. She is not mobile. She has not been mobile for well over 20 years. So when people ask me, you know, who cooks dinner, who cleans, I used to say my dad. It was normal to me. It was never a situation of like, oh, women's supposed to do that, or you know, and you know, I ain't getting into that. Promise you, I'm not getting into that. That's a whole
situation.
You know what I mean? But it was very normal. So in the vein of this suppressed trauma and this normalized trauma, and y'all started going, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up now. What role do flaws have in a person being a role model?
I think it's more just being open and being honest. I always wanted to have an open dialogue with my son about my past, my trauma, my mistakes, things that I experienced in my life, and how I've overcome them. I think it's important for a young black man to see your father struggle. I remember I had my son at 20, And I remember we had got set out because I thought I could live this lavish life. And my son was like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to make it work. I'm not moving in with nobody. If we got to live in a hotel or wherever, then that's what we're going to do. And I remember, you know, I told my son, I was like, I have a lot of resources, but I want you to understand that we can have the resources, but as a man, you got to navigate through your life as much as you can to try to figure out how can you get to the place where you need to be. Yeah. And I remember I prayed and I was just like, Lord, like if there's anything that I need to do in my life that needs to change, let it be known. And I had to filter out people in my life who I thought was my friends, who was only using me for money and for drinking and for hanging out and spending money on this and that, and utilizing that money to take care of my family. And so I just had to figure out a way to go through that. And then my son, as he got older, he was just like, oh, now I get it. Yeah. Now I understand. Now I know why we went through this. And now I don't hide anything from my son. You know, and I also try not to make any promises to my son. You know, I try to tell him like, hey, this is what I can do. But it's not a promise that I can do it. Because I think sometimes when we tell our kids, yeah, oh, I can do it, and you can't do it, then you just break that promise.
And I believe that flaws is part of your character.
Yeah.
So it's just that simple. It's like every part of me is just that it's a part of me. So the good and the bad. So you just can't have all the good.
Yeah.
You got to take the bad with it, or else you're not going to love me. You're just going to love what I can do for you.
Yeah.
So
and it helps manage their expectation too, right? So I mean, it goes back to even in the church, right? So when somebody comes in there, they see us today, right? And they think that's like the standard, and they're dealing with stuff and all. Guess what? We deal with the same stuff. We deal with, so letting them know that. And I had the saying that, you know, failure is not necessarily fatal, right? So it's not that you can recover from failure, and then success having only success is not final either. Yeah. Right, so you can't sit there. So it's in both ends of the spectrum. You can't live at either one, and you can't dwell on it. And so if you have a great day, all right, then you got to still wake up tomorrow and push it harder to how to have a better day tomorrow, right? Or if you had a shortfall today, it's a shortfall. I acknowledge it. I'm going to grow from it, get better from it, use it as a stepping stone, and get better tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just add to that. To the flaws thing, not trying to skip ahead or anything like that, but it just made me think about like how growing up in a household, you know, there are things they say that are taught and some things that are caught, right? Like your parents can actually teach you how to do these things, but there are also things that they teach you without actually saying, hey, this is how you do it. This is things that you pick up, right? Yeah. So if you pick up on, you see your mom and dad, or if you have a 2-parent household, you see their vibes, how some days they're just the best of friends, but when the money is low, they're not the best of friends. Like then that can kind of traumatize you. Like, all right, you know what? When I become older, I know that I gotta make more money because my wife is gonna be upset, or So some things are taught and some things are caught. So it's important for us to understand that there are flaws, and no one's flawless, but we gotta be cognizant of what's going on so that we don't re-traumatize the people that's coming up after us.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So we're going to do 2 more questions. I got one, and then we're going to go back to Avery real quick.
Yeah, I got to find one.
This question has been on my heart. So what is the importance of a father or a father figure in your life compared to a mother or a mother figure?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
Can I start
Anybody,
while y'all build it?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Please, let me start while y'all build it. My like I said, there were certain things in my household that was normal in my household that society would look at differently. My biggest disciplinarian in my household was my mother. The one I sought most approval from was my mother. My father was present the entire time. He was never not there. It was just his presence meant something different to me. And I was a middle child of 5 siblings, and I feel like motherhood affected how I am as a man and how I am as a parent more than fatherhood did.
Wow.
Despite the gender neutralization. And for years, when I became an adult was when things started becoming more like, all right, it's a little different. And at some points, I even thought that my mother even emasculated my father sometimes. And I didn't see it as negative, which I think that led to me being more of a open, an emotionally open person because of how much influence my mother had in my life and how I navigated the world.
You said you didn't see it as negative?
I didn't see it as negative. Okay. I did not see it as negative. I saw it simply as alternative options as a person. Wow. Until I started dealing with other male figures, which led to what I said earlier about the fraternity thing.
Yeah.
I saw them as, I use the term all the time, toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And that led to being one of the main reasons why I wanted a daughter first before a son. Because I didn't feel like I was ready to raise a man because I was just sort of figuring out what being a man meant.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot of internal debates on what I thought was societally acceptable and intimately acceptable. Which like I said, I still see no negatives on any of it because, not to get too spiritual, but God does everything on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
God does everything on purpose, and the experiences I had were for a reason. And some of them have been revealed to me. Some of them haven't yet. Some of them have. And I know my brother, 11 months older than me, sees the world very different. He had a very different relationship with my father and my mother. And he operates a lot different and navigates a lot different than me. And it's intentional that his life is going the way his is going and mine is going the way it's going.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just wanted to tackle that motherhood versus fatherhood.
Yeah.
I would second that. I think that me and my mother are really close, right? And excuse me, and it's because she was very instrumental in building that relationship. Like my dad was in the household. However, my dad, like I said, he would just go off and be to himself, right? Excuse me. He would be off to himself, but my mother would be like, hey, let's go here. You know what? Let's go for a walk. Let's go, because, growing up, I was, really big in the church, right? So my mom, our church would go to Baltimore. Our church would go to South Carolina, North Carolina. And she'd be like, hey, we're going to go for this weekend. Let's go. And I was like, yeah, cool, we get to travel. Like my mom was always that up and go person. So would I have wanted my father to be that more? Yes, most definitely. Like, Pop, hey, can you take me? I will ask, hey, can we go to the basketball court? Oh yeah, we'll go. Never go. So my mother will be the one to say, hey, you promised him you were going to take him to the court. Get up out the bed and go to the court. Then he would do it. Mm-hmm. So it's like he almost had to be like, not threatened, but like, forced.
Yeah.
Like it was almost like he didn't know how. And is he at fault for that? Possibly. However, I think it's something from his childhood where he didn't have a father growing up and teaching him this is what it is to be, present. So, but yeah.
That was my question for you. Did he know his dad?
He did know his dad. Did he grow up with his dad? No. His father was being a dad. I mean, being a dude, out there, He knew him. They didn't have the greatest relationship, but at the same time, it's just like, there comes a time where I think that as a father now, right, when you become a father, you should do a self-analysis of your situation. I know what I went through. I know what I don't want my child to go through. Is it going to be perfect? No, but guess what? The things that I didn't get, let me try to, even got to take, baby steps to get to the point where I don't want him to experience or her to experience what I experienced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for me, it was different because I was raised by my grandmother. My grandmother raised a whole bunch of grandkids in a very two-bedroom. Yes, all of us. And my mom was always there, but my dad was never there. And I always saw my mom have her own room with her man. And I was with my grandmother, but not with my mother. So it was like completely separated, but my mom supported me in all of my educational school plays and fashion shows and parent conferences. Despite of her drug addiction, my mom was always there. And my dad was never there. And so for me, I grew up differently, not knowing how to be a man, not knowing how to act like a man. You know, I had cousins that was there, but never that really taught me how to do anything. I had a lot of feminine ways growing up, you know, and I jump rope, hopscotch, you know, I ran, you know, jumped off roofs and broke in stores and did all that stuff, but never taught until I went to boarding school, maybe too blunt. I never knew what jacking off was.
Wow.
I had my roommate talk about it, and I had to call somebody at church. It was like, bruh, my roommate keeps talking about jacking off. What is that? Never experienced it in my life.
That's real though.
And he was just like, damn, like you really messed up. Green.
Wow.
Green. Like real green.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so I had to experience a lot of my stuff just from my high school environment on how to do certain things that I think I should have known a long time ago. You know, and so I regret not having that father to teach me how to talk to a girl or how to protect myself and, you know, how to do a lot of things. I just had to learn through my environment.
Man, that's some good stuff, man, because I really believe that regardless of how hard we try, a woman cannot teach a man how to be a man.
No.
You know,
It's
they can teach
impossible.
them basic life skills, but to actually teach them, and I'm not trying to be super deep or sexist or anything like that. It's certain things that a woman cannot teach me how to be,
Yeah.
how to do.
I
You know
agree.
what I mean?
And then it's not enough men comfortable. You know, they feel like if they came up rough or came up hard or had to learn stuff on their own, that the next man got to go through worse.
Yeah.
Definitely not better. It's less of a community amongst men, especially black men, where we are open with helping each other out with certain things. So, you know, that lone wolf mentality.
And I remember my dad telling me, men don't cry, men don't share their feelings.
The most bull.
And
my
that was
father used to
like
tell
the
me
worst
same
thing that I
stupidest
could
thing.
have ever experienced in my life because I didn't know how to share my emotions. When I was angry, I would punch holes in the wall. That was my way of releasing it. And when I had my son, the first thing I told him, it's okay to cry. It's okay to go through life not knowing how to navigate it, but it's all about how you express yourself. You know, and that was like, that took me a long time to learn how to let go of my emotions. And I learned that from an older woman that I dated
You know what's,
after I had a son.
you know what's crazy? Like, I didn't think men cried. Like, I didn't, when I was younger, I didn't think men cried. Not that I was told that men don't cry, but I didn't think men cried until my uncle passed away in like 1989. I was like 5 years old. And I saw my dad cry. And when it happened, I'm just like, wait a minute, like, dads cry? Like, I didn't think, I thought that dads were like superhuman. In my mind, dad was like Superman, right?
Yeah.
He didn't really show a lot of emotion, except when he was like, you know, cursing and stuff like that. But when he cried, I was just like, wow, like, he is a regular person. So that changed my perspective on like the male identity or the identity of the male. Like, men do cry.
Now, does that change your perspective now that you have a daughter?
That what?
Do you share that emotional side of you? Well,
Now, my wife. Now, listen. To be honest with you, no. I try to like. I share when I'm upset or if something bothers me. I'll tell her that, right? But still, that part of me will still try to hide the fact that I'm, you know, crying because I don't. Not because men don't cry. It's just I don't want my emotions to affect her more. So, like when my grandmother passed away in 2015, like I sat there and I cried like a baby. like by the door. I just couldn't move. And she came out. She was like, "Daddy, what's wrong?" And I'm trying to wipe it. Like, "Hey, I'm okay." I was like, Grandma Mick. You remember Grandma Mick? She was like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, Grandma Mick went to go live with God." "Oh, well, can we go see her?" No. Then I start crying again. But it was just like, she didn't really understand it, and I didn't want to like put that on her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, now, if I am upset, I let her know, hey, Daddy's not feeling the best right now. It's okay to be upset. Embrace your emotions. It's normal. Right?
And see, I'm the opposite with my son.
Okay.
Very transparent with my son. Very emotional with my son.
Yeah.
I don't mind allowing my son to see me vulnerable, because I think that's important, because it shows him that even though I'm a man, I still have weak moments in my life. I'm still not afraid to share my emotions with him or with anybody, and I think my son has seen me high and lows in my life. And I think that has brought us together even more, because it shows him that despite of what my dad goes through, what people may see of my dad, I know the real him.
Right.
And that just is authentic to me.
I mean, in a very general sense, the way we treat our daughters, the way we are around our daughters is how we expect them to perceive how to be treated, and the way we are around our sons is how we expect them to be, and how to navigate. So, I definitely, my kids, I got 2 and a 2-day-old, but my kids, I definitely perceive me being the same way.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way with my daughter's mother. I'd rather hold and suppress so that way she don't feel worse.
Yeah.
And I deal with my stuff separately. But I don't perceive me doing the same thing with my son, because I want him to see this how you is when you around, somebody you care about or whatever, and this how you need to be. You need to get yourself together, and this how we gonna keep, because they're either being taught or they're catching.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to do our final question.
Yeah.
Real quick, I promise. I'll do it real quick. At what point, as a father, do you feel that you have crossed the finish line / when does the job stop?
When you die.
Yeah. I think it's
Right. That's why it's the last question. That's
plain and simple. When you die.
Yep.
And if you did a good job, you'll never die, just because your legacy will live on, because you taught your child, you're giving them the tools that they need to continue to live. So your name will live on because you've given them everything that they needed.
Yeah, I feel like you father differently as they get older.
Yeah.
Your responsibilities as a father change.
Yeah, most definitely.
But you still gonna always be a dad. My children, my children now, I'm still gonna always be daddy. I don't care how old they or how many or who they married to or how many kids they got. I don't care. I'm always gonna be dad. And I'm gonna love them as their father. But I'm gonna parent them. I'm gonna father them differently now, because now they are grown. Now they have their own children. So I can't pick them up and coddle them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, you gotta. Now my job is to, what you gonna do about it?
So almost
You know
like
what I mean?
so you're no longer what I'm hearing possibly is that you're no longer the omnipotent one, the one that's like always there, but you're going to be more of the advisor role now.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the role that I play. And it flips, because a lot of stuff that I need, they take care of a lot of stuff for me now. And I guess that goes to the fact that I was such an awesome dad.
Yeah. I can't wait for that moment. I can't wait for that moment.
Man, this has been a wonderful, wonderful time. So, in true letters to my father fashion, we're gonna lock arms and we're gonna pray out. So let's stand up and lock arms.